You're listening to Barbell Logic,
the podcast where we talk about what it means to experience strength
and how you can use simple, hard, and effective strategies in training and nutrition to improve your life.
It starts with meeting you where you are right now and finding lasting solutions.
Welcome to the show.
Hello everyone. Welcome to Barbell Logic. This is Beast Over Burden. I'm your host, Niki Sims, and this is your co-host, Andrew Jackson.
Happy Friday, Tuesday.
Friday now, Tuesday when we're getting into your ear holes. Hello. How's everything going over there, Andrew?
Pretty good. Finally settled down from about a month and a half of travel. I think we talked a lot about that last week, but I have completed one workout since the travel ended, really, at this point.
How hard or not was that?
I was actually very pleasantly surprised on how well it went. I mean, if step one, lower expectations. So I didn't go in thinking it was going to be a barn burner, but kind of hit, call it some minimums. I think maybe some numbers that I'm sort of circling around lately that as I would consider my minimums. So I did 4x5 at 315 bench and a 365 squat, which are, not bad, and they moved fast. So
yeah,
I walked out of the gym feeling good and then finished with some lat pull downs and
nice.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really in a zone of training right now where I like looking forward to the gym and prioritizing feeling good during and as I'm walking out of the gym and enjoying that in this season.
Entering the season of being a lifter where we go to the gym and we do certain plate numbers. Like, I did a squat this week and it was 135. And then your
nice
bench is 315 and 365, where it's like, okay, we're not microloading all the time. Sometimes we are, but it's like, I just noticed that when I was going to the gym in the early days, and there were folks who were just like, well, they're going to bench 225 in however many reps that works for them today.
Yeah. I mean, in my case, they were both the numbers that my coach programmed. So it wasn't like I just pulled it out of thin air.
Okay, that's different.
It was sort of like these were numbers that were assigned as hey, you've just been traveling for basically 6 weeks straight. Let's test the waters kind of numbers. And it felt good, not only because I felt good doing it. And as I was walking out, like, okay, that was an efficient session. I wasn't, wasting time. I got through my rest efficiently. The bar moved well. But those are historically numbers that I wouldn't say they're obviously not anywhere near PR, but to come off the road and kind of crank those numbers out, I felt like was a good indication that I managed the travel training well.
Really good.
Now, while we were traveling, I was definitely just like making stuff up. And copied your workout last Friday.
Yeah, that was fun.
And basically off script there, but
yeah, last Friday, just so you know how much fun we had, we did synchronized deadlifts together, 5x5.
Well, first leg curls, which is actually the thing that I felt most sore. Like I'm still walking around, my hamstrings are a little bit sore because I rarely ever do leg curls.
But arguably the cutest part was when we did 5 sets of deadlift. I was doing 225 because I did that way because I didn't want to bring a belt. And also I needed to pull double overhand because my nails don't really love hook grip. So super important priorities there.
Key variable there.
Mm-hmm. So I was doing 225 double overhand and you were doing 405. And, we did 5 reps rested together. And then we did it again after like 2 minutes of rest. It was very cute.
My goal was to finish the set first. I don't know if you noticed that.
Oh, I did not.
Not only did I need to lift almost twice as much weight, but I needed to be faster. That was my internal monologue.
We were also in New Mexico, and man, there's no oxygen or water there. It was really hard to breathe.
In fact, it is a desert and yes. Noticeable.
A high desert, yeah.
Was somehow sweating, but dry almost instantly.
Always thirsty, always having to pee. It's like the body could not be happy.
And a set of 5 was cardiovascular exercise.
It was very cardio. Loading the plates was cardio. Yeah.
I also did it. I don't even know how much weight to call it on a leg press. Usually I just add up the plates, but you don't know how much the sled's worth.
Yeah.
And those were sets of 12, I think we were supposed to do. And that just about killed me.
Yep.
But got back. I didn't do a barbell squat for, I don't know, week and a half, almost 2 weeks.
Wow.
Got right back on. And
man, you got back into a 365. That's awesome.
for like RPE 6 or 7, it was just like,
It's really cool.
I didn't know what to expect. So always good when it doesn't hurt. And I think that's the topic of the day, right?
Yes.
Training that doesn't hurt. Isn't that fun?
That's more fun.
To not go into the gym feeling like you're going to just be like on the edge of stabbing pain or burning pain or tearing pain.
Walking on eggshells. Yeah.
What's the update there?
Well, I was having a conversation with my coach earlier this week, and there was also another moment this week when I was getting out of bed, which was, we were in so many different cities in a short amount of time, and I could walk just fine. And that's been the case for a little while, but I didn't really appreciate how cool that was because for a long time, like a couple of years, the morning was really challenging. Like I would hobble around. I was so stiff for like a really big chunk of the morning, and my back was just
usually not until after the morning walk, and things would kind of start to loosen up,
unclench. Yeah. So it made mornings just like not very enjoyable. Like there was no like springing out of bed.
Yeah.
And things that would usually make my back even worse would be sleeping in different beds.
Oh, wow.
Getting up and wearing high heels. Like if I put on high heels or any kind of heel during that morning phase where my back hadn't unclenched yet, then it would just extend the duration of that discomfort. And so I was doing that multiple times, getting up, getting dressed, putting on heels, going to the airport, which would be walking and carrying things and then sitting for hours in a tight spot.
Right.
And that would also contribute to my back, and then flying somewhere in a hotel room and staying into bed. And like those are all the factors that my back would take full advantage of to kind of tweak out. And it didn't happen.
Even an air mattress at one point.
Air mattress. Yeah, that's right. We're sleeping
Dodging
on the
fires.
friggin' ground. Yeah. Literally.
We literally avoided, we had to drive past a fire caused by lightning, and non-issue.
I was sad for many reasons, but I had a white Russian that I had to abandon. It's too bad.
It's interesting you mentioned that because, that was like part of the morning ritual was checking in with how much back pain you had. And to the point where then it became, let's just not talk about the back pain because we got so tired of talking about the back pain.
Yeah, I hated it. So annoying. Yeah.
I just forgot that was even a thing. And like, do you think that helped to just kind of stop thinking about the back pain all the time?
Maybe. I think there's some importance to giving it credit and just like acknowledging that there's something going on so that you make smart decisions. But I certainly was tired about it, and I was just sick of having to, like I said, walk on eggshells around it, and for people to always be like, "How's your back?" And we just like, it's still annoying," because I felt very victim-y. I don't like feeling like that. But it made me think about what are the things that I think have facilitated that kind of progress, which is wonderful. It's been really kind. Like on my Instagram, I've been back to some bigger numbers, like 3 plates
pretty consistently,
more regularly, 350. And people are like, man, it's so good to see you pulling heavy again. And thank you for those messages. That's really nice. It feels good to know that there has been another side of what I thought was maybe not the end of something, but a really frustrating process, and one that I know a lot of people go through.
The original event is coming up on 3.5 years ago.
Oh, thank you for remembering that.
That then led to about 1.5 years of rehab-ish kind of behavior. And you were almost back up to like PRs almost exactly 3 years ago at the Block Conference, August 2021, which was the final straw that kind of set you into the sub 200 kind of deadlift numbers for the last 3 years.
Yeah, like 0-pound deadlifts to maybe 95-pound deadlifts to pushing and seeing what I could do. And just kind of walking away for a long time.
Same for squats. Like squats just never really kind of, after hitting a lifetime PR of 300 pounds about 3.5 years ago.
I'm glad you remember all these dates. Thank you.
Cataloged in the brain mental timeline.
Accessing memory.
My brain is definitely much a linear timeline. But yes, what are those things? You said you had 3 things that you felt were key.
There are 3 things that came to mind. There might be another one as I think through this, but one really big one was a transition from trying to get back to lifting heavy as soon as possible to a different goal, which was much more open-minded. And that new goal was to continue to train frequently because I freaking love my gym time and build muscle. So my goal went from get back to lifting heavy as soon as possible to get to train frequently and put on muscle. And that really changed what kind of exercises we started using and what kind of frequency and what that meant for my in the gym time. It also totally made it more like attainable. Because if I go in with a back that I don't really trust and I can't pull 95 pounds, like, of course I feel very emotional and I feel defeated and I felt defeated frequently. But if I was able to be open-minded and figure out how to go to the gym and explore and let myself have a gym day that I didn't leave crying, like what you were talking about earlier, like that's a win in so many ways. And I know that I want to build muscle, which was, at the core of lifting heavy, but we all want to have more muscle. And I know I need more and more of that, especially as I age. It's super important. And there was this fear in my head that if I don't lift heavy, I'm just going to be skinny and weak. Well, I was like, well, I can still avoid being skinny and weak if I built muscle. And there are plenty of ways to go about doing that. That was a big one. I think we talked about how that was an identity shift. And I know I've worked with people who, I'm a barbell coach. We work together and have this barbell training relationship. So there's this white knuckle, like, get me back to my old PRs, get me back to deadlifting, get me back to squatting heavy at all costs. And if letting that go is, I think, a huge win.
Behaviorally, my observation was that most notably going from having an expectation for certain numbers on certain lifts, and if that didn't happen, it was a very emotionally upsetting thing, to, oh, I guess that's not going to work today. Let's see if I can find something else.
Yeah.
And then working with your coach with a very wide range of exercises, sets and rep schemes and loading schemes, and changing the target from strength as measured by weight on the bar with a very limited set of exercises to training. It was still very much a training mindset, but with just a lot more open-minded perspective, in your words, to how you could go about accomplishing really the same end, but it's sort of labeled differently. So again, we put muscle mass on lifting heavy barbells. That's obviously an outcome that happens, but we get there in a different route because you're prioritizing strength. And you've defined strength, or we have historically defined strength by being able to produce force on a barbell.
On a specific external object, yeah.
Yeah, so you measure or you validate that progress is happening based on that going up, that number going up. And, you add muscle in pursuing that. But in your change in perspective gave you just a lot more options to be able to validate. Well, I guess that's one of my questions. So you have this more open-minded perspective, but you don't have the easy metric of weight on the bar going up every single week. So how did you still feel like you were progressing while having that more open-minded perspective?
My ability to work hard was important for me. Like, I would really enjoy a squat day, not a heavy squat day, but like a volume squat day where it's just like, getting to exert effort and feel like I was doing something very challenging. And, that's the same kind of wonderful feedback from a bench press workout, a chin-up workout, a deadlift workout. It's like, it feels difficult. You're pushing against something heavy. You have to call upon your body for a big feat. And like, we would do things that were kind of annoying for a while, but weren't hard, like 50, 12 goblet squats or 50 walking lunges. And it like just wasn't scratching the itch, but it was still like fully, but it was still getting to a challenge. So as soon as I got a belt squat, that was huge because I was able to start doing a nice, big, heavy movement. Getting to a leg press was really good. So getting to use machines was really helpful because then I could push against something heavy. When it was just my body weight, that was kind of challenging to scratch the itch of effort.
Yeah, because I mean, the low back and bracing and being able to keep your low back kind of locked in is at the heart of all of those movements.
Yeah.
And then you've got load between you and the floor and your back right in the middle.
Yeah.
So the point of pain is, and same with the deadlift connected to your shoulder. It's like right in the middle
epicenter
of transferring all of the force from your legs to the barbell.
Yeah.
And everything has to go through your low back. So it's tough to really put any substantial kind of weight on the system when that's the load. So those machines allowed you to get to the hard without putting your back right in the middle of it.
Yeah. So I was able to train my legs without being limited by what my back could handle at the time, which leads me to the second observation. One of the best things I did was to stop doing jujitsu because
hard pill to swallow.
Yeah. And when I really thought through it, it felt, because I had been fighting for it for so long. But then when I had like a moment where I was just like, wait a second, if I just do stuff that makes me feel good, then I'll feel good and it'll be okay. And the reason why jujitsu is just a tough thing to do when you're going through something like this is because the movements are unilateral, completely unpredictable, sometimes quick, sometimes completely out of your control. And you don't really know what's going to be required from your body all the time. You can practice it, but you don't fully know. Whereas if I go and do a belt squat and, bilateral movements, leg extensions, whatever, I know exactly what's required. There's no twisting. That was another thing that I had to really be careful about and cut out was unilateral movements. I still am really careful with those. But stopping jujitsu is very important because I could have more control about how I'm moving under stress. And I was way better able to recover. I think a lot of the pain started from being under recovered. And so cutting that out was also very, very helpful.
I think that's an interesting way to reframe that, what you said at the very end, because I think you could argue, or someone could argue, what if you cut out the lifting and you just rolled? Hard to say which one's the key variable there, but I think you hit the nail on the head with the under-recovered piece, that the cumulative load of rolling, I mean, you were rolling many times a week sometimes and training at PR levels 4 times a week and not getting any younger.
Right. Yeah.
So you're kind of at a limit. You were maxed out, it would seem to me, on your ability to recover. And you were able to identify for you what your priority was and kind of allocate your energy and your focus to the thing that you could control the most. So
yeah, my priority was to build muscle.
Right.
Doing jujitsu does not help me build muscle.
Right.
And it was limiting, like my shoulder's still messed up from it. I'm still unable to do much bench work because of it. So it was very clearly limiting my ability to be successful in the gym to build muscle.
I would also, for context, emphasize that the average person you were up against was probably a pretty big person.
Yeah.
You were stronger than probably every person your size and would probably often end up having to roll with somebody that may have been comparable strength, but probably 100 pounds heavier at times.
Yeah.
50 pounds heavier. So you're putting, again, it's just from a stress, like a first principle, stress recovery adaptation. Take a look at the stress in your life and your ability to recover from that. And you're going to potentially have to prune some things in the stress bucket and prioritize some things in the recovery bucket so that you can actually heal.
And you have to know exactly what you're doing so that you can decide whether or not it was the right thing to be doing or not. And it's
Right.
too, like I said, it's unpredictable. You don't know what you're going to
Yep.
be drilling, who you're going to be rolling with, what kind of intensity you're going for,
Right.
if you're going to tweak your knee. Like it was too unpredictable, and I was
Totally
trying,
out of
and I
your control.
needed to be I needed to do things that I could have good data around, and that was not.
How did you manage? Because you started also adding in spin in the midst of that. It's arguably some variables, some unilateral-ish kind of work. How did you manage that aspect of it?
I'm trying to remember. I think I started with once a week. I got to a period of time where I was doing it too many times. I think I did it 3 times, and I was like, nope, that's too many. I'm destroyed. Arguably, even 2 times now is too many, honestly,
Yeah,
if I'm honest with myself.
right on the edge.
Yeah. But I actually even asked my coach that this week. I was like, so this is when I'm doing spin. And, I just told her I really want my legs to grow. I was like, is when I'm doing spin hindering that? And she was like, yes. But if you really like spin, there's great, cardiovascular and other benefits to it. Also, I find it really good mentally. So it's just like, well,
Yeah.
accept what you're willing to do.
So would you say you generally pay more attention to recovery now?
Yeah, I definitely notice when I'm not recovered and appreciate that that's what's going on rather than failing something and missing and deciding that it's because the program is wrong or I'm not good enough.
What are some things that you have learned to pay attention to as recovery metrics, if you will, subjective or objective or otherwise?
How I feel during spin, actually. Like there are times when, we do a certain cadence where I'm just like, I can't do that. And I know other times when I can. That means my legs they're done.
I suppose that's one of the cool things with spin, right? It's like
Yeah.
you're in a dark room. Worst case, you just
don't do as hard.
Don't do what they tell you to do.
Yeah. That's fine.
You just do whatever you want.
Yeah. And I do repeat a lot of the same movements. So if I find that, there are some days where I do this movement at this weight and it feels awesome. And then the next time I'm doing it and it's way hard, like I'm not as recovered as I was on that day, which for me often means doing too much and not eating enough. And then also we'll just tell my coach and we're like, okay, well, we'll just give you a little breather of a week. And that lately has lined up well with travel. Like we're just planning it now. So when I'm traveling, the workload isn't expected to be as high, which works well for a deload.
That is huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
Because in the past, would you have done that?
Yeah, no, like in the past, and this was another observation of mine that I alluded to earlier, is like I was fighting for certain movements. And now when I travel, like we just decide, okay, you're not going to squat when you travel. Every time I try and squat when I travel, when I'm up in Washington, my back just goes right back into like that freak out mode. It's just not worth it. And so like not worth it. It's not worth the stress. And so there are many other things that we can do instead. And so let's go to gyms where you can still work hard, but you don't have to do exactly what you're trying to do when you're at home.
Do you feel like you're like losing ground on a travel week, or is there any kind of like negative connotation in your mind with that? Or is it?
No, I don't really have like performance-based goals right now. So it's more like, well, I'm just going to enjoy this and eat some delicious burritos and and still go to the gym because, I love it. Like, that's just something that I love doing.
Yeah, I've definitely shifted that as well. I would have in the past dragged all my gear with me.
Yeah.
Tried to force myself to lift the same kind of numbers.
Right.
Felt miserable because everything is, uncomfortable, achy or whatever because of sitting on a plane or
joints hurt, dehydration,
not eating right,
undernourished,
blah, 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 blah. Now I go to the gym and my whole mindset is I am going to feel better because I do this.
Yeah.
Not because I'm forcing myself to hit certain numbers or make it, this big grindy set of squats. It's more like, well, it's going to feel better to move and do some work and find a movement that trains muscle and it's heavy and it's hard, but I don't know, it has a different, I have a different expectation. I guess you could argue it's moving the goalposts and somebody out there probably thinks I'm being a wuss, but I don't care. I feel better. And I come back and I'm able to, just like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I'm like jump right back into basically the numbers that I want.
Yeah, totally.
So what's the real point here, folks?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The one that I'll add at the end is patience with yourself and patience with whoever you're working with, because it's really challenging as a coach to figure out what someone needs at any time when they're dealing with an injury, especially something like a back that really can be pretty unpredictable. And patience with yourself, because what worked one day may not work at all again. And you have to be okay with that, because I think the more that you fight it and try to get to something specific, the longer it takes for it to resolve. Still work, be really curious about what you can get done and find a goal that allows you to be really adaptable, but still gives you meaning. But also, seems like you really do have to be patient. And I really appreciate all the coaches who I worked with that were, so helpful to getting through that time. And, recovery after so much training, I think that took a really long time. Like for how much I was training and what I was doing, I think it actually just took me a really long time to really recover from that. And I think we get into this idea that we recover in like a week, but we're professionals. We have really stressful, busy lives. And when you're dealing with pain, that's also something to recover from, the whole kind of weight of pain itself.
Sure.
And so I think there's just a good reminder to be nice to yourself and be patient. Don't beat yourself up at the gym. Yeah.
Not a linear process.
No.
At all. Especially with connective tissue, nerve,
discs.
Yeah, those kind of non-muscle tissue injuries just seem to take a long time. And I think that definitely seems to be noticeable, the patience that you have with yourself and just the process. You've expanded your capacity for that, which I also wonder if that is also, removing stress.
Yeah.
Like self-imposed.
I think so.
Expectations and frustration and all the emotions around, that is part of the stress equation. Yeah, it's not easy, but it's cool to hear that things are feeling better. I've definitely noticed the numbers going back up, but there was also a part of me that was wondering, like, was this coming along with more pain, or like, do you feel like you're redlining, or is everything just kind of moving in a good direction?
Yeah. And even when I'm deadlifting now, it's like, okay, well, we're not trying to get to a PR. Like it's very much a do what feels good. And I just happen to be able to do some numbers right now.
Almost PR numbers, right? I mean, think about it from a percentage perspective. You're probably not going to pull 430 anytime soon.
Right.
But, you're pulling 350 for reps.
Yeah, I think I hit that for a double, but I think I've done 365 for 5, so.
Yeah, but I'm saying that from a percentage perspective, that's like in the 90 percentile percentage range,
Yeah, and it's been good to see similar things from you too.
Yeah, I don't know. I still sneeze and have kind of the fear of God that I'm going to just explode. That one I have to like get into the hollow body position before I sneeze to make sure I'm like locked in.
Or like taking a bad step where you like, you like fall off a curb or something. Ugh, that still hurts.
Yeah. But the best part for me is I'm actually kind of grateful because I feel much better mindset around training in general. It's very enjoyable. And I like having that experience for being able to work with my clients and just help them have a different perspective that it's okay. And in fact, it's part of the process. If you want to be training for a long period of time, there's inevitably going to be something where that type of mindset is going to help you get through it. Doesn't necessarily mean it's an injury, but could be just any situation where stress is going up, recovery is going down. Okay, what do we do? How do we manage where we can't just say, oh, nice job, you added 5 pounds to the bar, you're doing a good job. There's so many other ways you can look at it and measure progress, which I think it's been helpful for me to have a coach. And it seems like it's been helpful for you to have a coach with that, because the perspective shift is a big part of the value, I think, of having a coach who's been through it before, has managed it before, and is also the one that's steering the programming. So you don't feel like you have to be making that call. I think that's a really huge value add.
Totally. Well, if you're going through something similar, I wish you patience and I hope your back unclenches. And if you gotten any value out of this, we would love a review. We would love a share. Thanks for listening today. And we'll be back in your ear holes next week.
I hope they're not actually holes.
Sorry, canals.
I actually have a hole in my ear from winning a belly flop competition with my head turned to the side, perfectly perforated my right eardrum. But
really awful to think about.
It was pretty bad, especially when I thought it was just water in my ear. So I poured rubbing alcohol in to an open wound
in
my brain, and literally alcohol into my ear, now then hole.
So unacceptable.
That was probably one of the most painful things ever. But anyways.
On that note, thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.